Welcome to our channel, Gray Matters. We are two neurodivergent ladies who fixate and need to share, and we've created this channel to do just that. Welcome to Fixate Today, Gray Matters. Today, we are going to learn about police informants, both federally and in South Carolina. We can think about if these tools are being utilized and how, and what may be going on surrounding the direct investigation of the loss of Micah. A police informant is a civilian person who is tasked with gathering information and evidence to pass along to a law enforcement agency. The evidence is usually against another person in an investigation. Informants are given leniency for a crime that they have committed.
It's a role that requires a deep sense of duty and, quite often, a willingness to take significant personal risks. The process of becoming a paid confidential informant usually starts with someone getting caught up in the criminal justice system. Often, an individual who has been arrested for a crime is offered the opportunity to work as a CI as a way to reduce their own charges or sentencing. There are cases, though less common, where individuals approach law enforcement voluntarily, driven by the desire to make amends for past actions or to help combat criminal activities within their communities. In these situations, it's about reaching out to local law enforcement and expressing a willingness to provide inside information on criminal dealings.
Each of our videos is meant to piece together our theory. After watching this, you may want to check out our human trafficking and money laundering videos. They point to some things JP may have been up to.
Before she died. It was a letter to for the courts in part of her divorce court proceedings, and it's a hard thing to read. I'll just be completely honest. She lays out like the entire case of why she's leaving him and what has happened to her. I just want to read a snippet of it. I don't even know if we have it, but her opening sentence is, "Since the day we became husband and wife, I have been abused in every way I can think of, emotionally, sexually, spiritually, financially, and physically. He has harassed me physically and electronically with letters, phone calls, emails, texts, hacking my emails, hacking my personal Facebook and impersonating me, using my stolen phone to send texts and emails out to church members." It goes on and on and on. Installing tracking devices on my vehicle, on my godmother's vehicle. The trackers were found on March 11th, March 14th, March 24th, April 15th. All of these have been documented and reported to the police. That's the key here, actually.
Informants have many motives for being willing to work with the police. Some include reduced sentencing, financial gain, dismissal of charges, revenge on another, need for witness protection, and even a guilty conscience.
And ethical dilemmas that come with being a CI. This role can place individuals in risky scenarios, potentially exposing them to retaliation. Moreover, the moral implications of informing on others, even in a criminal context, weigh heavily on many informants. In conclusion, becoming a paid confidential informant is not a straightforward path or one to be taken lightly. It's a decision that often arises out of challenging circumstances and carries with it significant risks and responsibilities. Those who take this route are motivated by varying factors, including reducing legal penalties, financial compensation, or the desire to help their community combat crime.
Informants may be used once or become a trusted confidential informant to a law enforcement agency and used multiple times.
We know that Micah had more than enough reason to want to get away from JP after years of abuse. But did she know too much about his, quote, friends and associate dealings? Could she have seen illegal activity that was hurting others that she just couldn't live with?
Bunch of Filipino girls or something. I don't know if what's going on in there, but the neighbor also saw him beating one of those girls up not too long ago. He can be, tell the police about it. The mail lady just went down there and she said there's always different young Oriental girls in that house, and then they're now.
Let's listen to JP's own words.
I'm just kidding. That was wrong. I told you I shouldn't be here today. When my wife went in the hospital, I looked at her phone and I counted over the past 2 years 18 people who would text her and said, if you ever want to talk about your husband, you can talk to me and say anything and I'll keep it confidential. Why the heck does somebody want to hear what somebody else says about their spouse? And 2 of those 18 were men. I thought, what? And I was thinking, when I read that, I thought, Mark Castaday, he's one of our elders here, and Jackie, she oversees our New Testament discipleship. Could you see Mark calling another woman and saying, you know what, I just want to tell you some things about my wife I don't like? Or could you see Jackie calling a woman or a man, either one? No, if someone wants to call you and say bad things about somebody else.
I will keep it confidential seems like an odd word choice. For argument's sake, let's consider that Micah could have become a confidential informant. Given JP's possessiveness, when could she have become recruited?
Again, this is a good time to check out another of our videos, Micah's trip to Kansas. What do we know about her time in Kansas? Well, we know that she and John Paul were advised that they should take some time apart, which would mean Micah should go away for a bit. She was staying with one of her sisters and seemingly was planning to settle in and stay for a while, which led her to join a new church. According to a church friend, we also know she felt like she was being followed and was fearful for her well-being or maybe even her life.
Would she tell you that happened?
She was very worried that he would follow her.
And that he had in the past?
Right. Very, very worried that she was going to get followed. And so she was staying with her sister, and I would rather not reveal that town for her safety, but
No
about
doubt.
an hour away. Yes. She was in a nearby town staying, and she hung out more with where I am from because she wanted to make sure that she was safe and with people and with the community, just in case she was found.
And was she?
Yeah, when she first came, she described it as a trial separation, and then later on she was saying, I'm trying to separate from my husband. She was excited.
It seemed like this might have been a good time for someone to swoop into her life and convince her to work with officials to gather evidence against her husband and his colleagues. Maybe JP caught on that something was up and rushed down to get her back into his clutches. Her friend Sherrill mentioned something interesting that was said in the text messages Micah supposedly sent, which everyone assumes were really JP. When specifically messaging a man Micah had become acquainted with, he said, quote, "Don't ever contact this number again."
For all of our healing. And then all of a sudden, she was gone.
Right. After just a few months, Micah left Kansas very suddenly to return to John Paul. She sent you this text message, which read in part, "It is a miracle. My husband has asked me to come home and be reconciled. I'm leaving today."
Group and
To which you
got the same message. So we looked around at each other and unfortunately kind of joked, blink twice if you need help. In the end, she needed help. After the story broke, we had no idea just how bad it was. Otherwise, we would have fought to keep her here.
How did you hear that she had died by suicide?
TikTok.
You heard on TikTok?
I found out through TikTok and had to inform the rest of my friends. I think he had her, because we never heard from her again. I think he had her so far removed from all of us that we never heard from her again. And in fact, one of the males who was also in contact with her, his text message that he got said, "Don't ever contact this number again."
This could have been him just being jealous of her friendship with another man, or could it be that he felt threatened or even compromised more than that? Maybe on a legal level? Could this man or men have been one of those 2 men who left messages for Micah inquiring if she was ready to talk about her husband confidentially? In this text, JP mentions, quote, "the things that he has recently found out she has done." What did she do? What did he mean? Is this relevant to this topic?
Or named informant, the police want information from you that they can quantify. For instance, the police often want to use your information to help them get search warrants from a judge.
What does Regina have to say
about that investigation?
Back in June, I was served with a grand jury from the United States District Court asking for all of my materials, my file documents, and everything that I had in my possession that was related to Micah. And they gave me an option to produce the documents and those types of things and directly to the assigned one of the assigned special FBI agents. So attached to that subpoena is a list of specific things that they wanted me to supply them with, and in that list, it specified particular things or events. I would say types of crimes that it might be related to, which obviously I cannot disclose.
Law enforcement officers must believe that the informant is reliable, has access to valuable information, and is motivated by more than just self-interest. This relationship...
I have to assume this was not difficult for Micah to do.
As an informant. Once your credibility is established, and once your reliability is established, the police can then use your confidential information to get the search warrant from the judge without revealing your identity.
Then, in November, once the FBI presumably sorted through the evidence and were able to procure a court-authorized search warrant,
FBI served a search warrant today at the home of Solid Rock pastor John Paul Miller. J.P. Miller became a focal point following the death of his wife, Micah Miller, back in April. Micah's body was found.
We watched as approximately 25 agents raided his home.
Or audio taped, but eventually your identity would need to be revealed, as you may be called as a witness to testify in court to prosecute the...
If she was working with law enforcement, and if our theory is correct, that would have given Micah almost a year to compile evidence, which we know, tragically, the FBI was only able to fully recover after she lost her life.
At this point, I don't even know who my husband is because I don't have a paper trail. I don't have a copy of my marriage license and where it was filed and proof that I am married to who the world thinks I'm married to, who I think I'm married to. I don't even know anymore. I'm getting tax records from Mica Francis, Micah Miller. I don't even know what my last name is. I know I'm Micah Acacia. I know I'm that. My parents gave me those two names. That's on my original birth certificate. Still is today. But I don't know who I belong to under God and legally anymore because I don't have a paper trail.
What was Micah telling us? And again, is it relevant?
Secondly, the people who you are informing upon are potentially dangerous people.
Listen to JP. What about JP's words?
When you feel like, just throwing in the towel and taking the easy way out, don't do it because it affects more than just your life. It affects the people around us.
Whether or not she was working with the government, her sister confirms Micah was compiling the evidence needed to kickstart the investigation.
To even know this, Micah had already appointed our sister Sierra over her email, her passwords to it, her Facebook account. Micah had been keeping track of all of her abuse, wrote every affidavit that someone has given her or their testimony against what they've seen. For the lawyers, she had a huge binder already prepared. She had all kinds of journals. She was anticipating something bad happening to her. and she had told Sierra that. And that's why she said, if anything happens to me, she had told one of our family members that she reported John Paul to the IRS the week that she passed away. The church,
Often, tax records which show fraudulent activity are the key that allows investigators access to the rest of a criminal's financial records in money laundering cases. So, turning over that information could have been the start of the end.
Because his behavior did not match what would be a true love. He is the kind of person that tries to buy love, and he expects loyalty. And if he does you a favor, he expects reciprocation. Nothing ever comes from him without a price.
Yeah, we had.
What was JP telling us?
She worked for everything. He didn't know what to think. He had no idea what was going on. So he hired a third-party service to find her and see where she was living and that kind of stuff. And they did. And last week they turned in all of their evidence to his lawyer, and he discovered that she had left him for one of his staff members, a young man that he had trained to learn how to preach, that he had shared his pulpit with him, a young man who the pastor had paid to go to Bible college, gave him a job. He worked hand in hand with the pastor. When he saw the information over at the lawyers, he started to throw up, just throw up one trash can, second trash can, a third trash can, then he just started to dry heave. He couldn't believe what he saw was the most horrible image and worst thing you could ever imagine. The lawyer.
What was Micah telling us?
I've kind of had to keep my circle really small for the past couple weeks, just because I'm going through a lot and it's hard, and it's my cross to bear. It's the thing that God has put in my life to deal with, and I don't want to bring a lot of people into it. I'm so thankful.
What does all this mean?
With regard to that. As to what's going to happen next, well, that's pretty straightforward. It's going to take a little while for the FBI to get through, everything that they took out of there. But the next step is going to be that indictment, that arrest. That's what's going to happen next. Is it going to happen this month? Probably not. Next month? Probably not. Do I know specifically what day it's going to happen? No, I don't even think the FBI does now. They have to stack up enough evidence to go back to the magistrate and say, oh, thank you so much for that search warrant. Now we would like to get an arrest warrant. So they put all of that together. That's what's happening.
You heard about it. Everything going on with the, what's the name? Rock Church, Solid Rock Church.
Okay.
It's the Miller, JP Miller. And like you say, she filed for divorce. 2 days later, she's dead. So there's something going on in there. It's been going on a while. Like I said, the neighbor saw one of them, the boy, because he's real crazy, beating the girl on the back. But I don't know why he didn't call the police, but he didn't know.
Thank you for listening. Please comment, like, and subscribe. You can also check out our podcast, Fixate Today, Gone Tomorrow, for more content. Have anything you'd like us to fixate on? Reach out and let us know. Thanks for joining us. Disclaimer: we are not investigators, journalists, detectives, law enforcement, or historians. We are two neurodivergent ladies who just hyperfixate. Please do not take our opinions and ideas as statements of fact. All allegations are just that. We are not accusing anyone of anything, simply offering our interpretation of what we've researched.